Well, my guest today is a friend. We had the blessing and the privilege and the pleasure to travel the country with the Get Motivated tour. For many years, it was Zig Ziglar and General Colin Powell and Les Brown and Brian Tracy and US presidents. And then Zig passed away. And then General Powell, he retired from actively traveling like he had been doing. I got a call to replace Zig Ziglar as the opening speaker. And then we got this guy came on who started with the tour. And boy, he was firing them up in every city. People were hollering and screaming and jumping on their feet, saying, I want more of what he's got to offer. His name is Dr. Keith Johnson. He is an Amazon best-selling author. He's a coach. He's a consultant. He's an author, a personality on media, but now he has a brand new book. And let me tell you folks, this book is incredible. It's called Financial Fast Track: How to Experience Abundance, Accelerate Results, Eliminate Bad Debt. And he didn't write this book about it from something he read or something somebody told him. He lived it. He lived this experience from being broke, busted, disgusted, and in debt to becoming a multimillionaire, and doing it quickly. And he's going to tell you the secrets that he learned in that process and how you have to do the same if you want to get the same. And you change your thinking and change something. And one of them, I've dog-eared every page just about in his book. But one of the things he said, you got to unlearn some stuff. Dr. Keith Johnson, join us now and tell us the rest of the story of how you got to this point to write this book. Welcome, my brother.
Hey, welcome, my friend. It's such a joy to be with you, man. Hugs to you. I'm telling you, if your audience is going to be transformed by this session here together, I've got some great news for everybody listening. I mean, it's good news. And the good news is this: you can get rich faster and easier than ever in the history of the world. That's my good news. It's
the good news.
And you can do it faster, but you got to have the right strategy. But dude, I got some bad news.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
It's also easier and faster to get poorer than ever in the history of the world.
Wow.
And here's the thing, my brother, there's a great divide happening right now in our generation. It's the divide between the have and the have-nots. More and more people are transitioning either out of middle class and into the rich class, or they're transitioning out of middle class and they're moving into the poor class.
Wow.
And here's what's happening, that gap. The old school live a middle class life is dying. It's either you're going to be on one side or the other. And the difference between the rich and the poor is simply one thing. It's a decision. The
Mindset.
Rich decided to go there. The poor have never made that decision.
Wow. Now let's go back to how you got a story. And I want to get that because people need to know that you didn't just come up with all of these strategies because it just sounded good. You have a story of where you were back in the early 2000s and how your life was jacked up. Okay, tell us the story.
Yeah, you're right about that, brother. I'm telling you, I was following the old school theology of what I call wealth in a wheelchair, that, hey, I got to wait 40 years to get wealthy. And I was living and practicing the old school kind of theology of focus on debt if you want to get out of debt. And what I found out is the more I focused on debt, whatever you concentrate on expands in your life.
That's right.
And instead of getting out of debt, I got into more debt to the tune of $180,000 in 2002, which was like $1 million today, right?
Right.
I had no money in the bank. I remember the day I had to dig into my ashtray to get some change to go down to McDonald's to get a breakfast burrito. We couldn't pay the payment on our house, had to short sell our house, had to move out of that house and move into my mother-in-law's little 12 by 12 bedroom. It was, it was hell on earth. I mean, life can't get worse. I mean, you're talking about hell, brother. If you're not living with your mother-in-law, you're doing pretty good right now. But man, I owed $20,000. I had an old Cadillac Sedan DeVille. I owed $20,000 more on that car than what it was worth.
Wow.
And I was at my lowest point, my friend. And it was in that season of my life, what we call a crisis, I think God calls a classroom.
Oh, stop. That's one of your books. I love that title. Say that again, because that is a profound piece.
What we call a crisis, God calls a classroom. And that was the worst year of my life. Yet it was the best year of my life, because God brought a multi-million-dollar mentor in my life to change my way of thinking about money and to give me strategies that I needed to quickly. And the key word is quickly.
Yeah.
Because, when you're in the wrong place, Dr. Willie, you want to get out fast.
Right.
And that was the blessing of my mother-in-law's house.
I got to get out of this place fast.
Yeah, man. It's like, I don't want to stay here very long. And I'm like, I got to get out fast. Well, my multi-millionaire mentor, he began to dissect my belief systems. And one of the first things he said, because back then I was like stuck making like $25,000 a year.
Wow.
And he said, Keith, he said, you think your problem is money, but your problem's not money. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's money, man. If I had some money, I could get out of here, man. I'd have to live with my mother-in-law. He says, no, your problem's not money. Your problem is you're not making enough money fast enough.
Wow.
And I was like, what you talking about, Willis? I was confused. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, Keith, you're making money. You're making $25,000 a year, right? I'm like, yes. He said, well, the key is you got to change your thinking. Instead of thinking $25,000 a year, you got to be thinking now, how can I make $25,000 in a month?
Right.
Wow. He says, you got to figure out how to take time out of the equation. Then he says, then what I need you to do is once you figure out how to make 25K a month, then you need to figure out how to make 25K a week. And he said, then you need to figure out how to take what you make in a week and make 25K in a day.
Yes.
And I'm like, why? And he says, that's right. He says, watch, unless you ask your mind the right questions, your mind will not produce a roadmap to how to make it happen. See,
oh man,
Keith,
that's exactly right, folks. One of the things that changed my life from a broke, busted nightclub singer making less than $25,000 a year to getting a job with the school system where I made $25,700 a year in 1990 to 1991 to being able to make $25,000, $30,000, and $50,000 a day was a decision and a change in mindset. Dr. Keith Johnson is going to talk to you and tell you how to get on the financial fast track. This is a phenomenal process. You're going to wait to see it. And we're going to be right back. This is Dr. Willie Jolly on the Willie Jolly Wealthy Way Show. And for sure, your best is yet to come. We'll be right back. My special guest is my good buddy, Dr. Keith Johnson. Dr. Keith Johnson is the #1 confidence coach in the world, in my estimation. And he is a good friend. We wanted to get motivated tour together. We traveled all over the country. Me, Keith, Les Brown, Damon John. I mean, we were hitting city after city, 2 cities a week, and he was firing them up. And people were flocking to get his resources. And now he has a brand new book called Financial Fast Track: How to Experience Abundance, Accelerate Results, and eliminate bad debt. And one of the most important parts of this book that I think is so profound, let me tell y'all folks, this book, I got it earmarked. Just about every page in this book is earmarked. Uh, During the difficult year, I realized I didn't need to learn most stuff. I needed to unlearn much of what I had been taught. The same is probably true for you. I mean, he talks about it. He's not playing around. And he just told you what you call a crisis, God calls a classroom. And he said, I needed an education that was action oriented toward building a financial fortress that external crisis would not destroy. Woo, woo, woo. Well, let's talk about what you learn and what they can learn from this book, Dr. Keith, because you are not pulling no punches. You're not pulling no punches. You said a lot of the stuff you learn often a lot of stuff you learn in your church or in your theological upbringing is old and wrong. And I'm actually writing a book about the new theology of achievers. And so I'm saying some of the same things, but man, the way you laid it out was just phenomenal. Let's talk about it and what people can do to transform their lives and get on the financial fast track.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's the number one thing that we have to realize is that our thinking has to be transformed. It's like if things aren't working, you got to change how you think. And so money is just an external scorecard telling you how good you're doing on the inner game of life. Man, when I realized that, in my mother-in-law's house, I realized, man, I mean, I thought I was doing wonderful. I was reading my own headlines, but the money wasn't lying. Our results are not lying. And what we have to do is we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what, if I'm stuck financially, that means you're stuck mentally. And what I started to learn, Dr. Jolly, was that a lot of the old teaching that I was taught was absolutely wrong. Like we had teaching that told us that money doesn't make us happy. And it's like, okay, let's look at that. Who taught you that money doesn't make you happy? I'll tell you who taught you. The broke people who didn't have enough of it to know whether or not it makes you happy or not.
You have a quote in there that Zig talked about. Money isn't everything, but it's right up there next to breathing. Am I right about it? And
Yeah.
one other thing you talk about is that many of your concepts were not only taught by people who were not wealthy, but they told you how to get wealthy, but they had never created wealth or generational wealth. But the other thing is that they have they jacked up or taken the scriptures out of context, like money is the root of all evil. It does not say that. It says it's the love of money that's the root of all evil. Money is good. Money maketh all things well, as it reads in scripture. Money does a process. And if you really study scriptures, money was used to help people, to bless people, to encourage people, to uplift people. But many people have put on the brakes, which you talk about very clearly. They put on the brakes to their wealth because they feel bad about creating wealth. In fact, I tell the story often. I have a family member who was an evangelist who had been brought up with that old theology, and he would go to speak. He got 7 children. He would go to speak somewhere. They'd give him a check and he'd give it back because he didn't feel good about receiving the money. So you break a lot of those old paradigms and start to help people to grow their wealth quick. Bam, on to her. Let's go about it. What is the secrets? Come on, tell me about it. Get going. We going in, folks. We going in. We're not playing, because Dr. Keith got some great answers.
Well, number one, I think we need to realize money is spiritual. And one of the things the church taught us, right? We learn all these wrong belief systems from broke family members, broke preachers, and broke teachers that we go to school. So it's like, what part of broke don't you get? So you got to admit you got some broke thinking that you inherited from a bunch of broke people. And you got to say, hey, wait a minute. Maybe I got to unlearn a whole lot of what I have been taught in the past. And so that's true, my friend. It's the love of money, the lust, that word actually is lust, the lust for it. The number one sin in the garden at the beginning was they focused on what they lacked. And lack of money causes more evil in the world than the abundance of money.
Right.
People will do evil and bad stuff because they lack money, not because of the abundance of the money. Money answers all things.
All things. Right.
And so that was one of the big things that I had to transform and had to change. I had to start saying, wait a minute, money is a spiritual thing because money is a reward to me for solving problems.
Right. Right.
And the more problems I solve on a massive scale, the more I will be rewarded back and shown appreciation. Money is simply a form of showing appreciation for services rendered, problems being solved, and solutions being offered to people. And so when I started to say, wait a minute.
Stop. Say that again. Say that again. It's about value that you bring to the marketplace, and that money is a way to say, I appreciate the value, and here's the worthiness of it. But you said some other stuff. I want to make sure people didn't go back. That was powerful, that money is a tool to help people. And it's also a tool to say, thank you. Come on, somebody.
Yes. That's the way the Jews see it. 5 of the top billionaires in the world are Jewish people. Isn't that amazing? They're the smallest people group, but yet they hold most of the wealth of the world. So here's the truth. 5 out of the top 10 billionaires of the world are Jews. And in a Jew's mind, right, the way they think about money is different than what most people think about money, because what they do is they think, how can I help? They see everybody in the world as one of God's children. They're not inclusive.
Right.
And so they think, how can I help one of God's children in the earth? How can I solve one of their problems? How can I meet one of their needs in a massive way? And so for them, they see money is simply this form of exchange of, if I can add value to you, you will then add value to me. And they see that exchange, Dr. Jolly, as a spiritual action.
So I want to go back in there, because many people know I've had on my show here a number of times Rabbi Daniel Lapin, who is a friend of yours, is a friend of mine. And he wrote a number of books about prosperity and about abundance and about money and about wealth. And he's incredible. He's a rabbi. And he says, we think about money different. And he'll tell you, you remember that Jews are less than 4% of the world population, but control over 40% of their income, because we see money differently. And we are encouraged to be philanthropic. That's why we give to great causes. He said, so you've got to change your thinking. And he talks about that in his books. I highly recommend any books by Rabbi Daniel Lapin, Lapin. Good, incredible books. Now, you're taking off from that concept that he talked about, because you talk about him in your book as well, and the fact that many people have put the brakes on because they feel somewhere in their spirit and their thinking and their theology and their teaching that money is not good. I'll tell you an example I had. I went to a program. I heard about this great preacher who was coming, but he talked about wealth and creating wealth. And people were going up, and I was sitting there taking notes, and people were going up putting money on the altar, on the platform where he was speaking. And he was walking on the money. And I was like, whoa, what? He's walking on the money. And I guess he realized I was not the only one. He said, many of you are having a problem with me walking on the money. He said, why? He said, why you got a problem? Money ain't God. He said, money ain't God. That's why he said, money is not your God. Don't lust after it. It's a tool. It's a tool to use, just like a car is a tool to get from point A to point B. It's like if I were to sit on my car, you wouldn't have any issue. It's a tool. Money is a tool. And that's what Rabbi Lapin says, and that's what Dr. Keith Johnson is saying in his book. We're going to take a quick break for station identification. When we come back, he's going to go in deep on this process and his principles. He got some principles and processes and steps to help you grow your money and your financial freedom fast. This is Dr. Willie Jolly on the Willie Jolly Wealthy Way Show. My guest is my friend. We want to get motivated tour. He's the #1 confidence coach in the world, in my estimation. He is an Amazon best-selling author, a media personality, a consultant, a coach, and as well as a wealth creator. And his name is Dr. Keith Johnson. He has a brand new book, Financial Fast Track: How to Experience Abundance, Accelerate Results, Eliminate Debt, and Do It Fast. Do it now. How many of y'all got some debt you want to get rid of? How many want some financial fast tracking? How many want some abundance right now? You need some cash in the bank, in your pocket right now. He talks about how do you do it. Before we go any further, Dr. Keith, where can people get access to you, the book, and all the resources you have?
Well, my friend, I decided when I released Financial Fast Track that my wife and I was going to make a huge investment to everybody who first got on board to buying the book. So we literally bought all of our publishers' copies off the press, and we are giving them away at financialfasttrack.com. They could go there. All they pay is shipping and handling. They're setting in my warehouse. We're only down to a few, so you need to get over there really fast. And I also throw in a special coaching benefit called Fast Experience. And what that's all about, and you've been mentioning it a lot, Dr. Jolly, it's all about discovering the break in your mind. Notice I say break. There is one brake. See, if a car, if you have on your brake and you try to accelerate at the same time, all you're going to do is spin round and round and do what's called a donut. And that's where most people live financially. They just keep spinning round and round and round and stay stuck at a certain financial level. So what you got to do is you got to discover, where's the break in my brain? And I literally, Dr. Jolly, give them a $2,500 coaching program where I use on my top clients to help them discover that one break. And I'm telling you, every client, once we get rid of the break, acceleration happens. So that's a $2,500 gift on top of the free book at financialfasttrack.com. My gift to your audience, my brother.
Man, I appreciate that, man. And this book, let me tell you, folks, this book, Financial Fast Track, I'm looking at this book. I got it in my hand. Just about every page is dog-eared. I mean, just about every page is dog-eared. Let me read this quote. This book is about helping you get off the slow boat to wealth and build a financial battleship that storms of life cannot sink. Scripture tells us that money is a defense in Ecclesiastes. The more money you have, the better protected you are against the enemy attacks and financial storms. And then he talks about so many other things about baby boomers who have been waiting for the life to get better, but not understanding that there are principles that if you would just put on different glasses than the ones that you were established or you came with, then you will start to see how it can be transformed quickly. Now, you've got in the book, you got Financial Fast Track, 7 financial fast tracks. I think it's 7, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
We have I set up basically from this experience with this multimillionaire in my mother-in-law's house, right? It was a year from hell, but it was also a year where I changed my thinking. And because of this multimillionaire, he taught me 7 things that got me off the slow boat to China, right? Got me in a battleship, right? Where the crises of life couldn't mess with me. And I laid them all out. And it was amazing that after this man taught me for a year, Dr. Jolly, that the next 3 years in a row, my income doubled every single year. And so here's our big promise that our book will give to people is if you get these 7 fast tracks down in your mind and start applying them as strategy, you can change your financial situation in less than 3 years. See, I believe that because I had to fight through it and work through it, but I give you the outline of how I did it in 3 years. My wife and I, we built the home of our dreams. We smashed our $180,000 of bad credit card debt. We ended up becoming, like you said, multimillionaires because of this mentor that just taught us to think differently, not like the 95% of people in the world do, but to think like the 5%. And man, when we started thinking right, that's why I said fast. Things started, it felt like literally, Willie, like I was in this, slow boat to China. And all of a sudden, like, life threw me in a roller coaster. I'm like, hold on, and,
Wow. Now
and
let me tell you, folks. First, he says you've got to unlearn some stuff.
yeah.
Then he says you got to imagine differently.
Mm.
Imagine action. Is that it? It's called that? You say imagine action, and imagination plus action creates results. But there's one anecdote he shared. I had to share it with my wife. It was so powerful. I want everybody, if you would, let me read it. Let me read it. Let me read it.
Okay.
All right. I want you to think about a pink elephant in the African jungle. Picture a pink elephant with floppy pink ears and a long pink trunk. Can you see it in your mind? Do you see it? Well, there are no pink elephants in Africa. No, you imagined it. You saw a picture in your mind. And when you change that picture you have for yourself in your mind, you'll change your future. What a great, just a great tool. That's why they call on you as a coach and a consultant, because you get people to shift how they think. And so let's talk about what it takes now, how to build a picture of an abundant future and then actualize that picture and make it happen. What do you recommend?
Well, you're exactly right. The first thing that multimillionaire taught me is he said, Keith, he said, your problem is that you're not really setting targets that are big enough, financial targets that are big enough that when you set them, they're actually so big, you can't live in the same house. You can't wear the same clothes. You can't be driving the same kind of cars. He said, Keith, the reason why people's lives don't change is they set goals that are so tiny that they don't move them, they don't move anybody else. And he said, your number one asset, Keith, I know you have nothing now. I know life has stripped you of everything, but there's one asset that the Creator gave you that's the most important asset in your life. I said, what? He said, your imagination.
Wow. You're thinking. Come on, folks.
He said, you've got to go into the future and you got to see a future that's way bigger. You got to see it. You got to go into it. And he said, then you got to come back in your present, right?
Right.
But you got to live in the future today. That's my first fast track.
Wow.
You got to live in the future today. You got to get up every day, not seeing your current situation, but you got to see where you will be. And my land, when I started doing that, my friend, when I started visualizing on the inside, see, it's always an inside work first.
It's an inside job. It's an inside job, folks. It's an inside job. Do it yourself job. You got to start with the inside. First is the inner, then the outer. First is the thought, then the thing. It is manifested after you think about it. Go ahead, Keith. You preach it now. Go ahead, boy.
Yeah. So God gave you this ability to create images. And so you got to do two things. Number one, your imagination needs a picture of a future you want to create. And then number two, your imagination needs a picture of a hero that you want to become.
Ooh, come on.
I was like, whoa. He said, who do you want to become? Who's out there doing what you want to do? I said, John Maxwell. He said, good. Then there's no reason why you can't become it. I'm like, and the first thing I thought was, wow, I'm not enough. Whoa, he's way better than me. Whoa. And I was rejecting the picture. I'm like, wait, no. If I can put that picture down, there's nobody in the earth that if I want to become something that I can't model, that I can't learn from, study, and then model and do what they do. And if I do what they do, I'll get the results that they get.
And you say in the book, if you fight for your limitations will always win. And you fight for what's not going to happen, what can't happen, what you can't do. Why can't you make $1 million this year or more? And you said it, that this is a time where you're seeing the fastest billionaires come to be that tech billionaires faster than ever before. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, one after another, who are taking advantage of this opportunity to use the internet. You also, I got to talk about this. You said embrace technology. You got to embrace it. And when some of us old heads, some of us old heads say, "Oh," but y'all notice I'm on TikTok now. I'm on Instagram. I'm on everywhere because I learned he's right. You got to embrace it. You got to embrace it. Am I right, Keith?
Oh, 100%. Part of wealth of acceleration is developing tools that you haven't developed yet, so that you can bring more value to the marketplace. See, tools help you get things done quicker and faster. So you've got to upgrade your skill set in order to upgrade your money. And I cover a lot of tools that we need to upgrade now, but one of them is that technology. You can't hide behind the walls of "I'm not techie" and then tell yourself you're dumb and say, "Well, my kids know how to do it." No, they're not any smarter than you. They just don't have any insecurities. They just haven't been told they're stupid yet, and they haven't been told that they can't do it. You've been telling yourself you can, but you've got to embrace it. Listen, the world is going techie. You will be left behind. You will end up being broke. You will end up on the slow boat to China. You will be the turtle in the race instead of the hare if you don't embrace technology.
Hold that thought. We're going to come right back with Dr. Keith Johnson. He got more for you. This is Dr. Willie Jolly on the Willie Jolly Wealthy Way Show. And for sure, the best is still yet to come. We'll be right back. And we're back. This is Dr. Willie Jolly with my special guest, Dr. Keith Johnson, America's #1 confidence coach. But now he's also a powerful author of a brand new, incredible book that I highly recommend you take time, particularly those who have been impacted by a theology that makes them feel bad about making a lot of money, not going all in, and feel bad about creating wealth. You say you want to be wealthy, but there's this restraint, there's this constriction that keeps you from being all you can be. The book is called Financial Fast Track: How to Experience Abundance, Accelerate Results, and Eliminate Bad Debt. Talk about it, Keith, what they got to do. What are the fast track secrets?
Well, of course, we've been talking about it already, but one of them that I believe really strong in is, of course, building more assets and eliminating liabilities in our life. Now, let me say that again. One of the fast tracks is creating more assets and eliminating liabilities in our life. And one of the things that I learned really, really fast is the quickest way to accelerate our wealth is to focus not on getting out of debt. See, I was taught, I told you I was $180,000 in debt, and I was taught that debt was evil. That's why we say bad debt. We don't say eliminate debt. We say eliminate bad debt. Right. Because I was taught that all debt is like the most evilest thing in the entire world, and you need to run from it as fast as possible and get out of it. You need to declare war on debt, and you need to cut those credit cards. And so what I did is I was like, yeah, I'm going to declare war on debt. And, I was $180,000. But before that, I didn't just sneak up on me. I bought into all that teaching, and I started focusing on getting out of debt, And guess what? The law of concentration, Dr. Willie, kicked in. Right. And I just got in more debt. My debt kept increasing.
What you think about longest becomes strongest.
I'm like, what's wrong? I'm focusing on getting out of debt.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, my multimillionaire teacher, he taught me, he said, Keith, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Don't focus on getting out of debt. Focus on how can you produce more income.
Wow.
If you could get more income coming into your life, and he said, multiple streams. He said, the problem with you is you only have one source, one stream. Now it's dried up. And now you are in a financial desert instead of in a financial promised land. Wow. And he said, you need to start figuring out how you can create multiple streams of income to swallow up your debt. Oh, man. And when I started to realize this, That's how things happen fast. In 3 years, I started locking in. I said, I'm not going to focus on my debt no more. My wife said, what are you doing? I'm focused on creating money. Who's got my money? Who's got my money? Money,
Right.
money, 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 money. And I started focusing on how to generate it, and multiply it, and distribute it right. Then guess what? Debt was no longer my problem once I built multiple streams of income. And that's where the teaching today is. It's like shrink your way. Oh, what you need to do is become a miser millionaire. That's the teaching. You just miser your way to millions of dollars. Don't go to the movies. Don't order the popcorn. It's expensive popcorn. And my multimillionaire friend said no. He said no. That's not the way of thinking that produces multimillionaires. He said that's a way of thinking that produces only millionaires. Millionaires live in fear. When all you have is $1 million, you live in fear because now you're guarding. I know what it's like to get the first $1 million. Then you're guarding that $1 million. Oh man, I got it now. I achieved it. Now I'm holding on to it, Dr. Willie, like a prize that I got when I was in high school. That I don't want to get rid of that trophy that I won. And then I started playing safe.
Right. Reverend, you say you got to play offensive. Let me read one thing. He said, when I say this is on page 55. When I say the words lower your lifestyle, lower your means, well, how do you feel? What happens? Well, your energy level drops because nobody wants to get excited about not living a good life. Oh, I'll just drive that old beat up clunker because I just can't see another way. And no, he said, get excited about creating an offensive plan, not a defensive plan. You got to have some defense. Yeah, you got to cover your assets. Right. You got to have taxes taken care of. There's some things you must do, but you also must be thinking offensive. A great football team has to think offense and defense, not just defense. And so you do that, and one after another principle that will teach people how to do that. Tell us another principle, Dr. Keith, that's so profound in this book. Go give me another one.
Give you another one. Okay, well, I think the big one, the big fast track, Dr. Willie, and you know about it. The big fast track that I discovered was the Solomon secret.
Okay, what's that?
In my mother-in-law's house, I realized how Solomon became so wealthy. And when you study out his life, you will find that Solomon became wealthy because he became a consultant to his contemporaries. And here's what I learned about Solomon. Solomon was the first one to start what I call the expert industry.
Wow.
To be a person like you, to be a person who has a story, solves a problem, meets a person's need, puts those thoughts, those inspirational stories, puts it in a book, creates content, creates trainings and materials to make other people's lives better because you went through a hell. Now you don't want other people to go through hell. And right. Now you create not property. Like I have 6.5 acres of property here. It's beautiful. But you also have intellectual property that you can begin to build and create and make a lot of money. We call it making money in your underwear, where you could take all of that experience of your past, the bad stories of your past, and the fastest way right now to making a lot of money is selling those programs, selling that training, selling your experience, selling your overcoming stories online. And it's one of the fastest tracks.
And you said something I love in the book. You said you become an expert when you can do something someone else can't. Even if it's hammering a nail, you can hammer a nail. You've only done it once or twice, but you know more than the person who's done it never. Okay. And you show them and they're willing to do it. If you can make their life shorter and faster and quicker and help them give value to a job that needs to be done or a problem that needs to be solved. Okay. Before we go too far, I do this every interview. If I were going to take you come to DC and I was going to take you to one of the great Howard University, American University, GW, Georgetown, and say to a class of young entrepreneurs, here's what you got to do to be successful. Give me 2 or 3 you gotta, please.
You gotta, number one, you got to make God your partner in life and business.
Mm.
God knows where the gold is.
Wow. I love that.
Number two, you got to realize, and I talk about this in Fast Track, you got to realize there is a shortcut to success and wealth. It's relationships.
Yep.
You got to improve your skills on how to connect with people fast.
Yes.
The key word is fast, because everybody's moving fast, and you've got to develop those skill sets, because people are the shortcut to your success.
Yes.
The third thing I would say, you got to fix your money problem.
Okay, tell me what that means.
The only thing that gains you influence in the world is success that you've created by earning a boatload of money.
Mm.
So you've got to fix the money problem. You got to be consumed with studying these 3 subjects. Master these 3 subjects. There's a lot of subjects, I know. But if you'll focus on mastering your walk with God, because listen, God is the only person who can handle the size of your dreams once you start tapping in to your imagination. God will never be intimidated by how big you are dreaming. You're not going to come to God and say, "Oh, you want a Rolls Royce?" Oh, no, God's going to say, "Is that all you want?" Because he thinks way higher than us.
Right.
Number 2, you got to leverage relationships. Leverage is the new currency, through relationships to accelerate what you do.
Right.
And then the number 3, money. Money is the fuel on the fire of your achievements in life. And so it's important to learn how to 3 things: how to earn it, how to multiply it, and how to have wisdom to distribute it correctly.
You know, you hit it right on the head. One of my great teachers and mentors said, you got to set some goals. First goal is to gross $1 million, then to net $1 million, then to invest $1 million, and then to give $1 million. Dr. Keith, where can people get this book and all your resources?
Yeah, they just need to go to financialfasttrack.com. This is the big push that we have. I've got a book waiting for you. It's my gift to you. It's part of me in my effort to solve as many problems as I can. And this book, 7 strategies. Excuse me. This book, 7 strategies, will help you quickly get there. We just went quickly over some of the concepts and principles in the book. But once you get this is a game changer, a life changer, and you'll get the ability to get the audiobook. You say, I don't like to read. Great. Well, you can also get the audiobook. Just go to financialfasttrack.com. It's my gift to you. All you pay is shipping and handling. And we have the whole Financial Fast Track University, where I take you on an 11-day journey on transforming your mind and getting these fresh strategies. Listen, the old strategies of old are dead and gone, right? They've already proved many of the old trainings that we even had in church, they're not working anymore. I have case study after case study of one major training that's in almost every church in America. I have a case study that proves it's not getting results. It hasn't been getting results for a long time. And so you got to get on the new strategies. There's new strategies for this era, and we cover them in this book. And that free gift, Dr. Willie, is amazing. I'm hoping that you get to experience that, Dr. Willie. I know you'll enjoy it, where I literally walk you through what is the brake. Because many of you want to go fast, man. You want to put on the accelerator. I want to change my finances, but you got the brake on at the same time.
Right.
Get that brake, take it off, and acceleration happens. It happened for me 3 years, and we're getting reports already, Dr. Jolly, of people whose lives financially are just turning around, and it's awesome to see it's happening fast.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Keith Johnson, my good buddy, who we traveled the world together and did program after program, and you continue to inspire, empower people. I want to thank you, and I want